socks and things that I may start wearing my Hanukkah socks, not just when I'm doing a rabbi thing for Hanukkah the weeks before, but I may do 2 weeks worth of Hanukkah socks. I'm not, I don't know if I'm quite up to that number yet, but I'm getting there. So this year, like I said, I'm planning on having a lot of fun. Last year was kind of quiet, and I don't mind quiet because I like candles. That's one of my favorite parts, but I'm trying to make sure that this year I have a lot of fun. So 2 weeks ago, we did latkes and a golem. Last week, we did dreidels and learning about different types of dreidels. This week, we're going back to another, not quite a silly story, but again, to latkes and of course, a little magical element. There seems to be, when I look, it's either like families having parties or things with goblins and ghosts and stuff. This one isn't quite fully that, but this is called Moshe's Miracle. So we're going to have a different miracle. And of course, it takes place in the past in a small village of Wishniak, where there lived a milkman named Moshe and his wife. His wife's name was Balia. Since he owned only 2 cows, Moshe earned a meager living as a milkman, right? You need more cows than that. Still, he was a very generous man who was always willing to help his neighbors. Basha scrubbed and cooked and tried to scrape together a few kopecks for a spot meal, but oi, how she could scold. Everyone said she had the sharpest tongue in Wishniak and little patience for Moshe's generous ways. Well, I suppose if you think about it, when you're trying to make sure that you can have enough meals and things, you could feel a little sorry for her trying to do all that she does do, but she didn't have to have quite as sharp a tongue as she did. Now it was early winter, and the wind was already putting really icy and cold. If some of you have been out a couple of days this week, you can appreciate that because it was, winter's finally here. And since Wishniak was a poor town with no industry, many people were feeling the pains of hunger. Malka, the widow, and her ailing son Shmuel, Heshi Fenster, who was out of work, and his wife was expecting their 13th child. Frail Bobby Rivka, housebound with her calico cat. So Moshe left an extra quart of milk here, an extra pint of cream there, an extra something, little extra for all the people who needed it. On the night before Hanukkah was to begin, Balia untied her kerchief and took out what money she had tried to save for the holiday, and she waved it in front of Moshe's face. Empty! All because of your foolish generosity. How will I buy eggs and flour to make our Hanukkah latkes, much less the oil to fry them in? Moshe imagined coins falling from her handkerchief into Balia's pan, where they would turn into, of course, golden potato pancakes. He could almost smell them in his imagination. Oh, well, he thought, we ought to be thankful for what we do have. Balia, don't fret, he said. There's enough onions and potatoes for a nice pot of soup. But Balia would not listen. How did I end up with this meal when I could have married the baker's son? On and on and on, she scolded, her hands on her hips and her eyes looking heavenward, until Moshe fled to the cow shed so he could have some peace. He flopped down on the straw. It had been a long day and he was sleepy, and before he knew it, fast asleep. Moshe, Moshe. The milkman sat up suddenly, rubbing his eyes. He looked to see who was calling him. Imagine his astonishment when he found out it was one of his 2 cows. You've always cared for us, Moshe. You keep our shed clean, milk us on time, and feed us plentifully. Most assuredly, chimed the other cow. So, although we seldom reveal to humans that we can talk, we want to help you, dear Moshe. While you were sleeping tonight, the first cow continued, a stranger came to the shed. For hours, he entertained us with tales of magic and adventure. You snored loudly all the way through it. But before leaving, he hid a gift for you there under the straw, and she pointed with her velvety nose. For me? Moshe reached under and felt something hard and cold. He pulled out a battered frying pan covered with grease. An old pan? He tried not to show his disappointment. Ah, but such a pan, said the second cow. According to the stranger, you have only just set it on the fire totally empty, and it will produce as many delicious latkes as you would like. Latkes by the dozen, latkes by the hundreds will appear until you pull the pan off of the stove. Just remember the stranger's warning. To Moshe this gift was given, and only Moshe must use it. Moshe was overjoyed. He showered thanks on the cows and milked them, for it was early morning. Then he returned to the house and hid the frying pan on top of the wardrobe, intending to surprise his wife later. That evening, Moshe and Bala lit the first Hanukkah candle with the shamus. They would add a candle to the menorah each night. With the menorah glowing in the window, Moshe took down the magic pan and showed it to Balia and told her all that had happened. Of course, Balia didn't believe a word of Moshe's story. I mean, when you think about it, can you really blame her? I've never heard anything so mishigas in my entire life, she scoffed. A pan is a pan, right? Somebody came to me and said, here, I'm not willing to try it, but I would think they're pulling one over on me, aren't they? Nevertheless, Moshe placed the pan on the fire. A lively sizzle filled the air. Soon, the rich aroma of potatoes and onions frying made Moshe's nose twitch and Balia's mouth water. And then there were the latkes, plump as little pillows with edges like golden lace, right? It's always great when you've got that nice little crusty, little extra crusty part on the end. The latkes were so light, they started floating right into the ears when they finished cooking. Balia and Moshe leapt around the kitchen catching them. When each had a plateful, Moshe removed the pan from the fire, and then he and Balia ate their fill and went to bed. But Moshe had trouble sleeping. He tossed and turned all the night, turning the coverlet practically into knots. Maybe he'd eaten too many latkes, all that heavy fried food. In his dreams, he saw Shmuel and Bobby Rivka and the calico cat and the Fensterbrood. They marched up his bedding, holding empty plates and staring at him with hungry eyes. The next morning, Moshe left a note on every doorstep. Happy Hanukkah. Please come for latkes at Moshe the milkman's. It seemed that all Wishniak squeezed into Moshe and Bala's little house that night. Latkes galore sailed from the magic pan. They were singing and dancing to Heshi's accordion, and the children spun dreidels. Only Balia stood apart, shaking her head. Moshe was giving things away again as usual, and making a mess of her house that she would have to clean up. She could just get rid of him for a while. She could take matters into her own hands. So the next day, Balia hid the Hanukkah candles under the bed. Moshe, there are 6 more days of Hanukkah left, and all our candles are gone, she wailed. Then she sent him off to borrow some from her sister in the next village. She knew it would take him hours to walk there and back. As soon as the door banged shut, Balia made a sign up and hung it on the window. Balia's Cafe, luscious latkes, 1 kopek each. She took down the magic frying pan. Now, of course, she remembered Moshe's words about the stranger's warning. To Moshe, this gift was given, and only Moshe could use it. But why shouldn't the magic work for her, too? After all, she was his wife. We ought to know that this is not going to go well, right? Balia placed the pan on the fire. There was a sizzling sound. It grew louder and louder as she waited for the perfume of frying latkes to reach her nose. But instead, a burning odor filled the kitchen. Balia pushed the pan away from the flame, but the smell grew stronger, catching in her throat. A plum of smoke uncoiled like a giant serpent. Dripping in some water, Balia flung it into the pan. Hiss! The water splattered everywhere. And before she could blink, each droplet changed into a hairy little demon with pointy ears and a forked tail. The creatures danced around Basha, giggling and pelting her with burnt latkes. Then, climbing on the chairs of the table, they shook empty handkerchiefs in her face. Balia spun this way and that way. She was dizzy, but she could not escape them. Just as she swooned to the floor, the door opened. In blew Moshe on a cold draft. He was followed by Wishniak's own rabbi and his wife, the Rebbetzin whom Moshe had chanced to meet on his way out of the village. It was a Rebbetzin who sold candles to the villagers, and she kindly gave Moshe enough candles to last for the rest of the holiday. So, of course, Moshe in turn invited them to his house for latkes. The demons took one look at the rabbi, shrieked in terror, and jumped back into the pan and vanished instantly with a belch of smoke. There are some advantages to being a rabbi. Bali was brought back to senses by a whiff of the Rebbetzin smelling salts. For the first time in her life, she had nothing to say. The demons had scared her speechless. Forever grateful to Moshe for saving her, Balia took time from her housework to help with the milking. She fed the cows and cleaned the shed. With a newfound love of cooking and entertaining, Moshe started to help preparing the meals and taking care of the house. By the end of Hanukkah, Balia found she could speak again. In a voice so kind, even the cows started talking with her regularly. From then on, Moshe and Balia were seen delivering milk together. Now, as for that magical frying pan, even back in Moshe's hands, he refused to make another pancake. So instead of sitting on top of the wardrobe where they kept it, it was kept on display now in the rabbi's courtyard. But fame of the latkes and the tale of its demons spread, and soon folks were traveling from far and wide to see it. Everyone hoped to see the demons under glass making a surprise appearance, and sometimes they even did. The visitors to Wishniak needed food and lodgings, heels for their boots and hay for their horses. Soon, instead of a poor village where no one had anything, it grew into a bustling market town where no one went hungry. And for years to come, even on the coldest Hanukkah night, candles burning brightly in the house and a smell of latkes rolled over the houses in a golden glaze that seemed to reach the stars. So that was kind of a happy ending for everybody. I have to admit, I kind of like the fact that the rabbi walked into the house, the demons went, and disappeared. Don't know if that would work in real life, but I'm not sure that I'm worried about demons either. So let's see here if I can get, where am I? Control V, there we go. And we've got the blessings in the chat. And I'll try to light my candle here before we get started. Sometimes my matches take longer to get. Okay. There we go. And we will start to say goodbye to Shabbat. Die, 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 die. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen. Die, 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 die. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim borei minei v'samim. Die die da 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 die 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 da 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 die 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 da 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 da. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei ha'esh borei meorei ha'esh. Die die da 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 die 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 da 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 die 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 da 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 die. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol ben yom Shvi l'sheshet tameh hamaaseh. But oops, I blew the singing there. Hamaaseh. Baruch atah Adonai hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol. And we take a minute to savor Shabbat, the last parts of Shabbat before we put our candles out in the wine and juice. And we continue with Eliyahu Hanavi. Eliyahu Hanavi. Eliyahu HaTishvi. Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu HaGiladi. Bimheira v'yameinu yavo aleinu. Mashiach ben David. Mashiach ben David. And I ask you if you want to unmute so that we can all sing Shavua Tov together. Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov. Good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign, joy increase. Shavua Tov, everyone. We may have to teach Robin how to sing this so she can do some of the singing part like she did last night instead of me. We, for those who are also watching on Facebook, next Friday night there are services either in the sanctuary or on Zoom. If you're coming to services in person, you are invited to bring your menorah and 7 candles because Rabbi Barbara plans to have a table set up in the front of the sanctuary, and we can all light our candles, which should be very nice. And hopefully the camera will be able to be taken off to be able to see that for the folks on Zoom. Next Saturday night, we will be here. Instead of a story, we're going to have a musical program from you or Jay, I think. Yes, thank you. My mind was going blank there. So that should be fun. It's also, if there's other Hanukkah things going on, there's going to be candle lightings most nights in front of the synagogue. If you look at your happenings, there's a list on that. There's also, if you want different movies to watch different movies for every night of Hanukkah, there's also information there. Or if you don't have that, you can contact the temple office and they would be happy to get that for you. So we're going to say, somebody miss something? Okay. We're going to say goodbye to those folks on Facebook, Shavua Tov, and